Hello, everybody, and welcome to our back and forth movie review. It's me, Gecko Man. I'm sitting beside me is Rogue Gambit, and today we are going to be reviewing Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
Yes. You've heard us talk about this movie a lot and aspects of this movie.
We've heard you talk about this movie a lot.
Yes. And, fight scenes and characters and soundtracks. So some of this will be a little review, I guess, for some of you. But I'm super excited to talk about this movie. One of my favorites, my favorite Marvel movie.
It's a good Marvel movie.
It's a good movie and a great Marvel movie. So we're gonna have Gecko Man keep me on track here. So, do you what should we talk about first?
Well, why don't we go ahead and talk about the characters first?
Oh, right. Characters in this movie are just done very well. First of all, let's just talk about Captain America and his character arc in this, right? Because when he starts out, he's where he left off from Avengers, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's what's the word? Naive, a little naive still.
Yeah.
But he's like a soldier. He's lived a long life. He just wants things to be done right.
Mm-hmm.
And throughout the movie, he grows. He learns that sometimes there are gray areas, but he never compromises from what he truly believes.
Yeah.
And they just do such a good job of portraying that. In every time that him and Black Widow are together, like, you just learn more and more about who he is. Every time somebody, like take for example the scene from Falcon is giving him his resume in air quotes, right?
Yeah.
Black Widow's over there like, "Whoa, this is cool. You were on this team, blah, the mission, da 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 da," right?
Mm-hmm.
And what Steve doing is he like, "Nice, glad you're gonna join us." No, he's like, "Are you sure you want to do this? Is this Riley?" He is still caring about the person, each individual person, right? Just so good. And that just goes to the whole thing with him and Bucky, right? He's not willing to just accept that Bucky's lost.
Yeah.
But he's with him to the end of the line. Just amazing, amazing character development. Anything you want to say on that? No.
Yeah, there are small details that you do catch up on that, like,
Right.
he's grown in this part. Like, he knows now that this world is not the same.
Exactly.
And there are those gray areas, but he doesn't change as a person, and it's so good. Moving on.
All right, let's go to our spies, right? We got Nick Fury and Black Widow, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're just like this stark contrast to Captain America, especially at the start, where they're just off doing their own mission, even when he's doing his, right?
Yeah.
It goes to show him, right? He's the one who jumps in first, puts himself on the line, does as much as he can do, and then they come in to clean up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Great shot of who Captain America is. What does Black Widow do? Just goes off on her own, doing her own mission, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we see him arguing with Nick Fury, right? We see who Nick Fury is. Nick Fury is somebody who doesn't put the individual first, doesn't put the mission first. He puts his mission first, right? He's got his mission. He compartmentalizes everything, like he says, and that just like stark contrast, like goes in it, and Nick Fury and Black Widow try to win this war their way, right?
Yeah.
But it's not going to work, and that's where we get the final scene with Nick Fury, Black Widow, and Captain America in the room, right? And he's like, "No, if we're taking them down, we're taking S.H.I.E.L.D. down too. Like, we can't salvage anything.
Yeah.
Like, we have to go all the way," and showing that his way is the only way that's going to work in this instance. He's accepted that that's not always the option, right? That's his growth, but he knows that this time that is what has to be done.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So well done. And they grow to respect him, right? Black Widow starts off kind of like, "You don't know anything, right? I have to teach you everything."
Yeah.
Ever like that, but she grows to respect who he is. They get to Camp Lehigh, right? And he's telling her, like, "This is where I was. I know that this munitions building shouldn't be within 500 yards of the barracks," stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So she's like, okay, just grows, and then they meet Zola, And same thing, like she learning that, okay, he's actually really intelligent. He saves her life. Then he gains her respect when she gains his respect in that scene when they're sitting there talking. And she's like, to be truthful, would you expect me to save you? And he says, I will now, right? So, yeah.
Clearly, somebody's excited for this movie.
Anything else? Anything you want to add?
Yeah, it definitely shows, and it definitely comes all together in that one room with Black Widow, Nick Fury, Captain America, Maria Hill, Sam Wilson, all those characters. You just have to point that out. Yeah, and it shows how much each of those characters have grown.
Yeah.
So even in the final moments of that movie, it's really good. Yeah. Any other characters you want to hit on?
So
you want to?
I will talk about a couple other characters.
It's not what I meant.
We'll start with Falcon.
Oh, really?
Sam Wilson. So I really like the way that they introduce this movie, right? We starts out and we just see this guy running, right? This guy running that we've never seen before. We actually see Sam Wilson first, and I think that's really interesting. It sets him up as like, he's going to be a big part of this movie. Some people, like when I went into seeing this movie, I had read comics, I knew who Sam Wilson was. So when they mentioned his name, I'm like, oh, this is Falcon. Other people, right, don't know that going in, and it just sets him up as this will be a big part of this movie. You don't know why, but then they reveal that as we go along. So we meet him first. We see who he is. He's a soldier, right? Like through and through, he's a soldier. What he talks about, soldier things. How does he relate to Steve Rogers being a soldier, going overseas, sleeping on the ground, right? How does he? But then you get to see kind of who his personality is. The fun parts of his personality, the way he jokes around, the way he, speaking of hits on, talks with Romanoff, right? Just that part of him like comes out, and they just do a really good job of building up that character just from the instant we see him. And then as we move along, we get to see that he's more than that. Like he's willing to put himself on the line. He's willing to help others, right? In the little what are those called? Meeting and support
group. That's
meeting, and he's leading that, right? Then we see that like he has this backstory, this past that in some ways drives him, and then we learn that he's willing to help these people that he just met when they just show up on his door, and then he's willing to go. Like he still wants to be part of the fight. He wants to fight for what is right, and he respects Captain America so much that he's willing to just do that just right after meeting him. Yeah, so that's him. And then lastly, I guess we'll talk about the villain. This is going to get a little into
the movie.
I was just thinking it's going to get a little into the plot because, there's so many reveals with the villain.
Yeah.
But I think that's okay. We can talk about plot next, maybe if our host agrees. So,
I never agree with you, but do I get what I want?
But yeah, let's talk about...
I'm trying to decide which one you're going for. I'm assuming you're going to say Winter Soldier, but no.
We'll talk about Winter Soldier later.
Yeah.
I want to talk about
Alexander Pierce.
Alexander Pierce.
Yeah, I want to talk about him as well because he's such a good character.
Yeah, his character just is done so well, right? We meet him, and he's talking with this council, right?
Yeah.
Nick Fury comes to bring him something, and they just have this like witty back and forth, and you almost get this feeling. At least I did the first time I watched, and every time since, of course, I know that he's the villain. But like you get this feeling of like he's a little off, right? But like everything he does is to like help Nick Fury.
Yeah.
Right.
You get this sense at the beginning that, well, yes, you get the feeling that he's a little off. Something might be not right with him, but
he's a politician. Right?
Yeah.
Like that's his job.
Yeah. But you get this image of him being a part of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right.
You don't even know about what's going to happen.
Right. And this is like the first like big look we get into S.H.I.E.L.D. Right. And we get to see, so like it doesn't surprise you that this person's added. Even if it's a big name actor like Robert Redford, right? Like a lot of times you see that in a movie, like, oh, they're going to be the villain because they brought this big actor in for this role. Yeah. But no, you're over there like, oh, like they're showing us this dive into Shield. Of course, they're gonna have big named actors playing roles in Shield.
Yeah. Yeah. And going back to the the shots of the first shots you see of
Right.
Alexander Pierce, you get this. You can also get this sense of, while yes, he may seem a little off, you also get this sense of, oh, he's also seems like a friend of Nick Fury.
Exactly.
So he's probably a good guy who's going to have some important role on the good guys.
Right. And then when Nick Fury dies, like, yeah, he's such, once again, like a politician. Like, yeah, he knows that he knows that Nick Fury's dead and wants to find the one who killed him, right? And he puts himself even against Captain America. And once again, you're like, whoa, what's he doing here? But he seems very genuine, just wants to find the person who killed Captain America. And then that grows even more the next time we see him with the council, right? They're about to throw him out.
Yeah.
And he's just like, well, then you guys have to do that because I care about Nick Fury. I don't believe that he would have done this, right? Like what Captain America says, if you knew Nick Fury, then you want to think that, right? And he's like, well, that's why we're having this meeting, right? And it just like puts him literally with Nick Fury in that moment and just makes it seem like there's no way he can be the villain. And right after that is when Romulo says, bring in the asset, right? And then we see the shot of him in his house with Winter Soldier sitting at his table, right? And it's like Winter Soldier's going to kill him, right?
Yeah.
It's like when I watched it the first time, that's what I thought. Like they set that up so well. And then he just...
Yeah, it's just like...
Want a glass of milk? Like,
well, you still don't know even when he says that.
Right.
I'm getting a glass. You want a glass of milk? And he's like, what?
and then he's like...
then he starts talking. But like his whole like
timetable has been moved out.
like everything about him just changed in that moment. You're just like, whoa, this guy's evil.
Yeah. And then just to put the cherry on top, he just turns and shoots his housekeeper just like that. And you're just like, wow. Like, and that's just such a good depiction of Hydra, right?
Yeah.
Like they are growing a parasite in Shield, right? They're seem like they're such like wolves in sheep's clothing. And they're not just that, they are like so evil. Like Hydra in the comics is just so evil. They do such a good job of bringing that to life in that scene. Oh my god, it's so good. And then the arrogance that he shows throughout the rest of the film is just so good.
Yeah.
So it's like indicative of who he is. And incredible job.
So that'll be it for characters for now.
When we bring them up in other parts of it, I was thinking talk about characters, but that's all I've got for just diving into characters themselves.
Do we want to go? How about we go into story?
All right, the story and the plot.
Yeah.
All right,
Since we've already talked a little bit about it.
Yeah. So, like we said, they do such a good job of like setting up like Alexander Pierce, who he is, as like a friend to Nick Fury, but then just like twisted on its head, and they kind of do that so well with a lot of the villains because it's not just about like good versus evil, but it's like about this evil growing inside of a good, right? And so they do such a good job with Rumlow, right? From the start, he's working with Cap. He helps Cap. Like they do such a good job of setting him up as a friend, but also somebody who like respects him. Like he's like, thanks for helping me there. And he's like, it looks like you needed the help, right? Like from the start, it's just like they respect Cap. There's no way they could be the ones that turn on Captain America, right? And they like see him, they like idolize him in some ways. At least the other guy, not Rumlow, but the other one, kind of like you could very much see like, he's like, whoa, was he wearing a parachute?
Yeah.
And so this plot, like, there's all these people like that are to make it so that when you start seeing Pierce turn on him, Romulo turn on him, you really think like, who else could it be? Could it be Sharon? Is Sharon going to turn on him? You don't know. Like everyone who seems to be a friend to him just turns. Could Nick Fury have been evil? Right? Like because they do such a good job of setting them up at the start of the movie, every twist hits so hard and also just sets up. Could there be more? Yeah. Could there be more? And it just brings you further and further into the movie. I think something that a lot of people at the time, it wasn't really when it first came out, but within the couple of years of it coming out, I saw a lot of people talk about how they didn't like that Hydra was again the villain. And I have to say, I think that was a really good idea, because in the first one, yeah, Hydra was the villain, but like that's not who a Hydra is in the
Yeah,
comics,
yeah.
right? It was more Red Skull was the villain, and he happened to be the head of Hydra, right?
Yeah.
And they do such a good job of now, like Hydra, yeah, cut off one head, yeah, you cut off Red Skull, but now they're this massive organization that have infiltrated everything, and I think that was just such a good idea for a Captain America movie, who's like this one man who uh, symbolizes America, right? That's his job, and does such a good job of, yeah, there's this one man who symbolized America, and then this one man who symbolized Nazi Germany in the Red Skull. That was the first one, and now it's like, now that we're moved on past that, we're not in the middle of a war. It's now this one man symbolizing America against like this corruption that has gone in America, and then once again, just like such a good depiction of where we're at now versus where we're at then, that just comes through so viscerally.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and just you can even they even do such a good job of showing that on screen. You see, basically at the end fight, you just see just Captain America, Falcon, Maria, Nick Fury, Black Widow.
Maria Hill.
Yeah. What did I say?
No, you're good.
So yeah, and you just see just them fighting. Really, you don't really see anybody else really fighting Hydra, even though you do get some shots.
You get
like
some
that.
people trying to.
Yeah, exactly. But they never really get a chance
Right,
to.
right.
But
Because once again, that's like their friends just, they don't know.
Yeah.
That's why not only is this excellent, but the episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that came out at the same time, Turn, season 1, episode 17, is so good for the same reason, because you like got to see this like inside of like this part of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
where just they have no idea who to trust, absolutely no idea, and that's those people, right? That's why they're at such a disadvantage, because the Hydra agents know they're Hydra agents, the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents don't know who they are, right?
Yeah. Moving on to another part of the story, or the plot, or whatever we want to call it. Winter Soldier.
Okay.
I think they do an amazing job of showing you and not showing you
Yeah.
what type of force Captain America is against.
Yeah, they do such a good job just with his character, and the fact that we see him, we get introduced to him, right? And he's just going after Nick Fury, right? And he's just seeing, he's just like, okay, this is just like, you know, you're thinking, he's just a action movie villain, right?
Yeah,
Somebody who's going to be similar powered to Captain America. They're going to be going up against each other, right? But like, you don't really get to see who he is, right? All you see is him walk in, one shot of him standing there holding the disc launcher.
Oh yes.
You
The disc launcher.
Yeah, you get to see him rip off the car door, but even the first time you watch it, like, you don't really know what you see. Like, they show that shot so fast that, like, if you're not really paying attention, you might not even see that it's a metal arm, right?
Yeah.
You just see that he's strong, rips this car door off, and then you see his face, right? It's mask and eyes covered, right? So all you really see is some longer hair.
Yeah.
So, like, you don't know anything about him. Then the next time we see him, we just see that he has a metal arm, that he catches Captain America's shield, that like he's this, and then he just disappears, right? Then we start hearing legend about him, and it just like builds him up as like, oh my goodness, who is this person? They just made Black Widow look like a chump, right? Like,
oh yeah, because you just go through all this stuff. You're being hit with so much information, you don't know what to give, especially even the short amount of information you're given. It's like still so much, because you're like, okay, who is this guy that just somehow was able to just take out Nick Fury's car, who was able to catch Captain America's shield, and then all of a sudden we're hearing it where we find out that this guy is just a ghost.
he's either been around for 50 years or is just an urban legend, right?
Yeah.
And then we get to what normally I would say is the worst part of the movie, and it's the worst part of every movie. It's when you get to that scene where there's the giant exposition dump. And I've talked about this on this podcast many, many times
Mm-hmm.
because there's literally almost a 5-minute exposition dump
Yeah.
when we get to Camp Lehigh and we're just chatting it up with Zola, right? And he's just blabbing on and on and on.
Mhm.
But they do, and I just once again will say this, the best exposition dump of all time. The fact that they can just give us all that information, give us backstory, give us front story, and we just don't care because it's not just a bunch of information, but it's all information that is just shocking, right?
Yeah,
Everything is a reveal. Everything is piling on top of each other. It's just setting up who's the good guys, who's the bad guys, just so well. And art and like there's emotion. They do such a good job of acting. The emotion that they're showing, it's a dialogue. It's not just one person. Like so many times in movies, it's just the villain like spewing out his plan, right?
Yeah.
But they don't really even get into the like full plan, right? That doesn't happen until they capture Sitwell, right?
Yeah.
It's actually just like backstory of how they got to this point, and just reveal after reveal, and oh my goodness,
Yeah.
Captain
You
America just do
just
such a good job.
spread it out through the movie, basically.
So then we get our next exposition dump, and that's when Sitwell's there, right?
Yeah.
But that scene, why that one, it's not nearly as long on top of it, and on the other part is once again just like reveals like what they're gonna kill off this many people, like Stephen Strange. What are you talking about? But also we see like in that moment like how far Captain America's come, like we talked about at the start. Like would he have ever at the start of this movie done that?
Yeah.
Just like gone and kidnapped somebody off the street and took him up to a roof and interrogated us? Like, no. But because of everything that's happened to him, where he's been disowned by his family, basically, and S.H.I.E.L.D., now he's been pushed to this point. And so because there's that giant culmination of his story arc, at the same time, once again, this exposition dump like feels so real, so there, and it doesn't feel like a normal exposition dump where you're just like, okay, yeah, we already knew all this, get over it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, it was all information that we don't know. Yes, there's giant exposition dumps, but it's not a bunch of exposition that we didn't need. Like we needed it.
Yeah.
And that's why it's just done so well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then moving on with Bucky, if you don't have anything to say.
No.
right.
Just I guess one thing to say about those exposition dumps, the good thing is how they used the exposition dumps for something else to move on the story. Like Arnim Zola, he's like, I've been stalling this entire time,
right.
And it's just like, oh wow, that's so.
And that's
good.
like, yeah, they do that a couple of times where like, yeah, right when you kind of get bored with the exposition, right when you get bored with the exposition, something big happens, right?
Yeah.
The first little exposition, Catcher's like, no, that's not true, and he like punches the screen, right? And they like get like jarred out of it a little bit, and he's just like, as I was saying,
Yeah.
and then like just brings you out, and then at the end he's like, I've been stalling, and they're like, and then suddenly you're just thrust back into, oh my goodness, something's happening, bogey, this missile is coming for them, right? And they do such a good job with the pacing of that, right? Like a lot of people could just let that sit for a second, and that's not when you want that to happen. It's the same thing with, the exposition right before that. It's not nowhere near as long or long at all, or that much information. But when they're sitting there and they first look at the drive and they're finding out that it's at New Jersey or whatever, like the way they play that, and then it's like immediately when it ends, they have to get out there and get away from these people, and it just
no time
just
to
the
linger
timing
and
of
stuff.
the whole plot. That's what I guess we're talking about plots. Like I talked about, they do just such a good job of building that. Just build. I've talked about this many times. There's a pretty famous clip of me saying "build" like 15 times in a row when we talk about this movie, and I'll do that when we get to the soundtrack. But right now, we're just talking the plot. They do such a good job of building up this anticipation, and then because there's so many reveals like that, just hits so hard. Then they also are building up just the tense and intensity, that's the word I'm looking for, the intensity of everything, with them not being able to trust anybody, stuff like that. And then not only that, but they like build up the intensity of who this villain is. So like going back to Winter Soldier, the next time we see him, right, he's attacking their car and just comes out of nowhere once again, right? Just every time his introduction, it's just like boom, he's there. First time he's just right there in front of Nick Fury. Second time, he just shoots Nick Fury, and then you just like see the glow of his arm through the window, and then he runs away, and then he just catches it and then disappears. The next time we see him, he just shows up on the car, rips the door off, like just kills Jasper Sitwell like that, right?
Yeah.
And then he's just so powerful, like he's just doing something. Like what I love about him as a villain is he's always doing something. Like he'll like do the slow walk, like he's intimidating, but he also is when the intensity of the situation ramps up, like he ramps up.
Yeah.
He's literally riding in a car and he just immediately rips the door off, throws Sitwell out, grabs his gun, starts shooting into the car, gets thrown off, catches himself, jumps right back on, rips the steering wheel out, just like boom, boom, boom. And that goes all the way to the fight scene where he's fighting with Black Widow and Captain America. Like it's just everything's so crisp with him. He's just like does this, does that, puts his hand up, blocks that, grabs this, throws that, rolls that, shoots that. Like it's just like so just intense, just crisp, clean, beautiful.
Somebody's in love with that. And also you were talking about how he has the classic slow walk. This is going to go a little off track here, but I do want to add this real fast. I think they did a very good job with the slow walk.
Agreed.
Because there's always a reason for almost every action that he takes.
Yeah.
And it's just like, whoa, the slow walk when he's after Black Widow and he has no idea where she is. Just he's listening, watching.
Walking slow, yeah. And that goes to the whole point. Do I want to mention this right now? No, we will mention this later. When we get to the end, I really want to mention this. Kind of like comparing this movie to other movies that are similar.
Yeah, let's save it for the end.
Just like with him, particular, everything's so intentional, like you said. Like when intensity ramps up, he ramps up.
Yeah.
When it slows down, he slows down, listens, pays attention, doesn't get caught off guard because of that.
Noticing Captain America charging at him and stuff.
And just turns, fires, knows the gun's out, drops it, grabs his Uzi, fires that. Oh my goodness, so clean. And then that goes to when he's fighting against normal people, just the utter just destruction that he causes. That it's a whole group of pilots and fighters, right? Like, and he just decimates them within a couple of seconds. Takes out 5-6 planes or Quinjets and multiple people, and then just takes the one he needs and leaves. Like, amazing. And that just like shows how cold he is. And that's why the other thing they do such a good job of setting up on both sides, right? There's the scene with Captain America and Falcon where he's like, I don't think he's the type you save, right? And then there's all the scenes with him where he is just so cold, doesn't care. Yeah, there's a little bit of doubt, but then it gets wiped out. That's what they do. They wipe him clean, start over. So when we get to the end, there's no doubt. There's no thoughts of, is he going to be able to save that he's going to be able to save him. It's, is he going to be able to save him? Right. They do such a good job of just not letting that creep in and just slowly, when they want you to think that, they'll let you think that you don't get ahead. And because once again, the pacing of the movie is so good, where it's just, we're learning with them. We haven't got to camera work, but I do want to say one way that they do that is at the start of the movie when Nick Fury gets attacked the first time and right before he gets shot, they start showing a lot of the scenes that Steve Rogers is in from Steve Rogers' perspective. Yeah. When he walks in the apartment, they do it. Then when he walks in the hospital, they show it from his perspective. And then when he walks all the way neighbor, and then goes in with Pierce, it's all from his perspective, showing that like we are now in his perspective for the rest of the movie. And learning he learns it. We almost never get information that he doesn't get, except for the Pierce is the villain. That's about it. Everything else we're learning as he's learning it, and they do that. Just sucks you in so much into this that then at the end, like I said, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if he's going to convince him, and then he doesn't really, right? Like Bucky still tries to stop him the entire way, and he has to defeat him as a villain. And then, after he's able to defeat him, then they have the moment where he seemingly redeems himself. Yeah. Right? Wow. That was... definitely. It's done so well.
Yeah.
Right.
One of the core fundamentals of this movie.
Yeah.
Speaking of camera work.
All right. So, camera work. There is... such good camera work in this movie.
Yes,
Just,
and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I will.
yeah, go ahead.
Intentionally.
You need to. You need to if you want to get any words in edgewise.
I know. Gotta say something here. I wanted to go into this. I was wanting to save this for last, but I decided to go with it
Go ahead.
because soundtrack is so much better. But with the camera work, with watching it this time, I've noticed new things,
Yeah.
especially in the scene when they're in the hospital with Nick
Yeah.
Fury. I never knew that those two get
Sitwell and Rumlow show up.
yeah, and it was just like they're in the background. It just shows how Hydra is in the background.
Exactly.
And it's
So good.
terrifying
Yeah.
and good.
Yeah, I don't remember the first time I recognized that, but it definitely wasn't the first time I watched it. It was probably third or fourth.
Yeah, it's
And yeah, it's just like
never knew they were there.
amazing. And like, not only does it show that like Hydra, right, is, in the background, like you said, in the just seeping into S.H.I.E.L.D., but it also shows that like they were seeing if Nick died too. Like they needed to know. And that's how they know so fast that he was dead. Was they were there. They saw him die.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just like such a good like continuity.
Oh yeah.
Not it. What is it? Continuity done right. Right.
Exactly.
That happens. But yeah, that's spectacular. Just spectacular. There's so much good camera work like that, and just that zoom. So that I can never remember what that type of shot's called, where you zoom out while focusing in.
Oh,
But I love that, and it just shows how alone Captain America and like the way. I mean, the acting is just so good. We haven't really talked about acting, but just so good on their faces. I did notice something a couple of times ago watching this. Romanoff, Black Widow mouths something as we like pan around.
I noticed that. That's one of the new
like,
things I
almost
noticed.
every time I didn't look up that and figure out what she says or watch it in slow motion and try to read her lips, but I always forget to. But anyways, just a little.
Do you know what? Do you know what
I
she
don't
said?
know what
She said Russian made. They were Russian made, and I was like,
that's just once again great continuity thing with like her character. That's something like she would be like focused on, right?
yeah. That's something I caught this time as well. It was like, whoa.
And then just such good acting. But going to the start of the movie with the camera work, absolutely love the camera work at the start, right? It's such just like Captain America camera work, right? Like this is who he is, where we see this guy running. Then as it pans over, we see the Washington Monument just like appear in the background, and then he runs past him, right?
Yeah.
But they do a really good job with the camera work too, of angles, where that whole thing was like a long take. Yeah, there's cuts, right? But each shot is like a long take, where there aren't cuts to like get him to run faster than him, but it's just the way that the camera moves with Sam Wilson, so it looks like Sam Wilson's running fast, but it's moving with him, so you can't really tell the speed at which he's running. And then the background can be moved. They can basically move the background as they want by angling the camera, and then they can have Captain America run past him and seem like he's running a lot faster than he actually is.
Yeah.
And then they do a lot of stuff with like pillars. Like at the start, he goes by that pillar so that he can just zoom by him behind this pillar, right? Or it's I think the last time, it's around the corner, where they come around the corner and follow Sam Wilson and come in front of him. And so then it's this optical illusion that makes it look like he just caught up to him so fast.
Yeah.
And just little things like that at the start, just so well done. And then moving on to the
whole scene on the boat.
The whole scene on the boat. Oh my goodness. Just from the start, they I knew that was like a practical prop. It wasn't CGI, but man, it's just beautiful.
Yeah.
You come down with the camera zooms around and goes all the way around the entire boat and then up over.
Yeah.
And then you see him climbing up the.
Yeah.
Wow.
So many amazing, just one long takes. And it's just like, wow. How in the world do they do that?
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
So good. And then once again, following him, running and just taking these dudes out.
Yeah.
Great camera work. There's a lot of cuts in some of them that are, whatever. It's a lot of cuts for a fight, but just done so well. Like I've said so many times, you see what you need to see.
Yeah.
And they don't show you too much. They don't show you too little. It's so good. Just the stunt work, man, when he kicks that guy and the line work just to yank him back. So good. You can't tell whether he kicked him or not, just amazing.
Yeah.
That whole time, all the way to the fight scene with Black Widow in there, in the engine room, the fight with Frogmaga, Mr. X, I can't think of his name. Anyways, that fight, just once again, incredible fight work. The wide shot, wide angle, and then all the up close cuts, all of it done so well. And then the shots inside with the hostages, where they like show you that these people are right outside the window.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, such beautiful shots.
Yeah. If I can say as well, you said this while we were watching the movie, that they make you feel like a hostage.
Yeah, I really like the camera work when they go inside that room. It's like it's really low to the ground and like moving, all like a head moves, and it just really makes you feel like you're inside that room with them. And I remember the first time watching it, like the stress like building, like it's just done so well.
Even every moment when they take somebody out and they are doing everything they can to be quiet, when they shock the guy and hold him, and it's just
and it just sits there for a little bit. You see the guy moving,
and
like,
you're just
my goodness, it's gonna happen. Yeah.
It's so good.
And then we go straight from there to the Triskelion. This is the first time we're introduced to Triskelion, and just such a good job of the camera work going up the building and showing it in DC, right?
Oh,
or New York, I guess, or the border of both. I don't know exactly. I'm bad at geography, but right there on the Potomac River. And I guess it is, DC it would be in, but just you could see like the landscape and the skyline and just beautiful shots inside, just really well done. And then seeing all the shots of street level stuff, so done so well. In the hospital, once again, we talked about that. Then we didn't talk about when he's like trying to get information out of Black Widow, right, and like pushes her into that room. Really good camera work of like showing like him like from above, so it like shows like he looks like bigger, so much bigger, and just like he's mad, and you're just like once again showing him like change, like he needs this information, like just really well done.
And then moving down the road to the I didn't
even talk about my favorite shot of Bucky through the windshield, cracked windshield as the focus changes. So good, such a good shot.
Beautiful.
And then we talked about him slow walking up there, showing his feet, just revealing so little. Amazing.
You see flashes of blue light and all that. That's a beautiful shot. All the shots, I'll just say this right now, all the shots with Bucky in it are beautiful and just very well done. Just gorgeous.
Another thing I will talk about is the shot with Alexander Pierce when I'm trying to remember exactly how it goes. When he's talking with Captain America, and there's a shot of him like at the window, and when he's like, he was a friend, right? Oh my goodness, such a good shot. I really liked how that whole scene was structured with him and Captain America, like the way they move around the room. Just so well done. And they literally start one end, move to the other, and then it wraps around. He goes to the window, and then he starts leaving. And it like shows us like them coming together, arguing, and then like separating. Just really, really, really well done.
I actually never noticed that. So sounds like I gotta watch the movie again. Another one scene I do want to talk about is the fight before the fight after Sitwilda dies. Amazing shots on that in that fight.
I've talked about this scene so much. Let's you talk about this.
I want to start with before the fight. You're in the car. You first get the shot of outside the car for a moment, like I believe above. And then you go right inside, and then you're just given no other shot. It's all one take. You're just watching them, and then all of a sudden, just arm reaches through and stuff, and it's just like you have no idea what's going on outside. You have no idea if they're being followed and stuff like that. Then more beautiful shots of just them in the car. I'm sorry, I'm focusing on them in the car because I love those shots. Is when they were stopped, and Winter Soldier's just standing there. Car is just
Yeah.
coming in so
Yeah.
quickly. It makes you feel like you're there and you're just like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah.
They do a very good job with that shot. I love it. Moving down further, another shot that I like is when you're in the bus with Captain America. You're just on that same level with Captain America on the ground. Seems like just very disoriented of what
Yep.
and stuff like that. Even though you do know what happened and stuff, but it still just feels disorienting. Then the whole scene with Black Widow going over the edge, runs around, shoots Winter Soldier. I'm doing motions with my hands here. It's a little weird, but it's
And like I've said before, like just that little like look at the ground, so you see the shadow and know exactly what she's thinking. Just done so well.
And then just that slow moment on his face, and he takes the glasses off, and it's just I'm gonna kill you. And even the moment when, continuing with just Black Widow and Winter Soldier, the moment when Winter Soldier is just slowing down, you slow down, and then when he stops, the camera stops. So good, and you're just watching him and he's just looking over at this car, and you're just like, something's gonna happen. And then he just rolls that grenade, and you just follow the grenade. That was a good shot too. Any particular shots in this fight that you want to talk about?
I mean, the shots that I really like are when they show Bucky and then just chaos around him. With people running everywhere, and it's just like him standing there, and just like people running, explosions happening. Like, oh my goodness, there's probably four of them in that little stretch, and they are all just so well done. Whether it's the one where he goes flying off the roof of the car and catches himself, and it just like kind of pauses there for a second, or when he's walking, see just people running, her telling people to get out of the way, or it's then right after that when he just like standing there with his shield, and it's just people in the background losing it, right? Just so many of those beautiful shots. Everything else I basically talked about. So
basically.
That fight scene is my favorite fight scene in the MCU. So if you want to hear me go in depth just in that fight scene, you can listen to our top 5 fight scenes in the MCU.
All right. Moving on from that fight scene, I think we talked about enough, and we do talk more about it. How about let's go to the final fight. Unless there's a shot that we're forgetting here.
Well, I will say that all the shots with the helicarriers that they're like lifting off and up in the sky, oh my goodness, so well done. I don't know how much of that was CGI and how much of it was practical. Dang, they're done with it. Oh, just beautiful. All the flying around that would have had to be all CGI. Just so good with Falcon flying around all of them. And then the final fight, oh my goodness, so many good shots of them. Especially at the end, just with everything just being destroyed, and just the water below, or the things the helicarriers falling out of the sky, hitting, whether they're hitting the water, hitting the side of the Triskelion, all of it just even after that, when Winter Soldier brings Captain America up. And he's on the land, and you just can still see some stuff falling out of the sky, and it's still destruction. It's a little off track here, but I just want to say there are a lot of shots where you could just make a beautiful poster. We didn't even talk about him in the elevator. So many good ones.
That's right.
So many good ones. I mean, we talked about that fight a lot too, but we didn't really talk about the camera work necessarily. He walks in, right, and we just like see him with just his back, the shield, looking out. I mean, that is a poster. You can get that poster. It's beautiful. So good. Or then there's one where he turns around, right? And he's just like sitting there, and you see it from the back. So many shots in and out of that elevator. There's glass on 2 sides. They purposely did that so you could see it. It just, so many amazing shots of him, where everybody's at, coming in and out of the movement of everybody going in and out of that elevator. Just so good. Just like setting up this scene seamlessly. Like, it doesn't feel forced. It just is amazing choreography.
That's another thing, is they do a very good job of making you feel like trapped
Yeah, even to that like final shot of the back of the guy's head.
Yeah. And I will say this as well. This is a little off of camera work, but I just want to say how well they did in how well they made everybody move in that elevator before the fight.
Yep.
As everybody's coming in and
That's what I just said.
I know you just said that, so zip it. I want to show my love for it too. Yeah, and it's just beautiful.
Yeah.
And then during the fight, like, first off, I just want to say I've watched that fight so many times, and I am still surprised with how fast Captain America takes out so many of them.
Yeah, and just like the smoothness of the whole fight, like so many people in such a tight area.
Yeah,
like that could have been a mess of a fight.
Yeah,
but they did a good job of having sometimes one person attacking him, sometimes multiple people attacking him taking out these people. Those are the ones who are down. They're not going to make a mistake and have them suddenly up. Yeah, just incredible. And they even show it from the outside sometimes, the whole group, right? You just like see where everybody is. You can pause it at any time and just like know exactly where people are.
Yeah,
oh my goodness.
Yeah, and then you're just get that final shot of him standing there. That, man, I forget what it's called, from above, from when he's standing there right before he takes off his takes off the magnet off his wrist. I forget what type of shot that is, but it's still beautiful. You see everybody down, you see him standing there. I like that. I like those type of shots. You see.
Yep.
Yeah. Any others?
With camera work, we kind of talked about most of it. I'm sure we missed something, but yeah, just incredible camera work.
Recommendation: go watch the movie. Give us your opinion on the type of camera work.
Watch the movies in order, but if you have not seen this movie, it's one that you can just like it. Even if you're not a Marvel fan, like it's a spy movie just as much as it is a Marvel movie.
Yeah. And you can even watch it. I don't think you do. Yeah, you don't have to watch the other Marvel movies to really.
Right, you don't have to, but you should. All right, what else? What do we want to talk about now?
What do we got left? We got soundtrack and
acting. You want to talk about acting?
Let's go into acting.
All right, we can make this quick. We mentioned it quite a bit. Chris Evans, incredible job with Captain America. He just plays Captain America so well. Plays the nice guy so well, and yeah, the emotion he shows, the non-emotion he shows the entire time, just so well done. His chemistry with Scarlett Johansson, with Samuel L. Jackson, with Sebastian Stan, just so good. Robert Redford, oh my goodness, Robert Redford just does a crazy good job. That man's acting abilities are so good, and I love every time he's on the screen.
Yeah.
Samuel Jackson, great job as Nick Fury. Just plays that character. A lot of people have given him flack just because he's so different from the comics, but he plays that character and who he's supposed to be so well. He plays that. He's arrogant when he needs to portray arrogance. He's humble when he needs to portray that. He's just such a great actor in that role. Scarlett Johansson, such a good job as Black Widow. Like I said, like the expression on her face when the one person she cared about is dying, and then the expression on her face when she finds out he's alive, oh my goodness, so well done. She acts incredibly well. Just the desperation she shows. Oh my goodness, when she's running away from Bucky and she's just trying to save people. Oh my goodness, that's all her acting right there. Just so good. And then when she gets shot, and it's in her face, oh my goodness, so good. And then Sebastian Stan, oh my goodness, the dude.
Yeah, and around this time, Sebastian Stan was not that big of an actor.
No, not really known at all, and just
nails it.
So good.
With the very few lines he says.
He has, all in the face, just a deadpan, no emotion that he shows as Winter Soldier. And then the, inquisitive, who the hell is Bucky, Yeah. Just that. What? And then when he's sitting there and he's just trying to figure out who Bucky is, right? He's just sitting there, who's this person that called me Bucky? And he doesn't have to say anything. It's all just right there. But then when he's doing his mission, it's just back to no emotion. And then when he finally just loses, he's been broken and you're my mission, just raw emotion.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's so good. So good.
And then all the side characters, yeah, they all did great act. I wish I could remember who plays Sharon Carter, but yeah, she does a really good job. Frumlow, whoever plays him, great job. Joe Russo, great job.
Yeah. Now that you know this, you're never gonna stop.
I've known this a long time.
Yeah, we can.
Anything you want to say about acting, or shall we move on
No,
to the
let's
soundtrack?
get on to soundtrack here because you kind of stole it from me.
All right. You can listen to my favorite soundtracks episode, whatever that is, when we talk about this a bunch. But
Yeah, let's talk. But we could talk a little bit more. I think I've said this before, but I'll say it again. Every time in a fight, just hit something. Soundtrack is like on point with hitting it. It's good. It's
the
good.
soundtrack, yeah, that's I mentioned this before, like, yeah, the soundtrack builds, like I've said, but we're not going to focus on that. I want to focus on how it follows so well. It follows what's happening so well. When they talk about Winter Soldier, what happens? The theme of Winter Soldier comes in, right? Like you said, when something gets hit, like it hits, right? Just so good. Whether it's from the start when he punches the dude through his own shield, right?
Yeah.
When his shield hits something, like it just amplified through the soundtrack. Or when they're and like the soundtrack when they're sneaking, the soundtrack slows down, sneaking with them. When it's dead still, it's silent. At the very start, right? We get this giant Marvel theme music, right? And then it just silence as we like just open up, see this beautiful scenery and this person running along. Just the use of sound for the silence, for the slowness, for the pace. But it just, as the movie ramps up, it ramps up. It just follows and pushes the story so well, and just adds that dread and just
even during the fight scenes too.
Yeah.
It'll ramp up, and then when like during the highway fight scene, Black Widow goes down and it just goes quiet.
Or when
quiets down a little bit.
Pop out of the car, right?
Oh,
roll it, like just quiets down. Like you can literally hear the
Yeah.
whatever hitting, whether it's Sam rolling or them sliding, and like their use of the music, but also their use of the sounds around, right? Whether it's nature sounds or the sounds of the cars or the sounds of the explosions, like they're never competing with each other. They're always coming alongside and helping each other, amplifying each other, pushing each other, making every aspect better through the sound of the people, the sound of the fight, the sound of the environment, or the soundtrack itself, right?
Yeah.
Each sound just coexists and pushes each other so well.
Yeah, even just it's hard for me to explain because you're the soundtrack guy.
Well, how does it make you feel listening to this? What does the soundtrack bring up in you?
You really asked me
The dark thoughts that come.
They bring the dark side in me. Oh man, like I will say they bring the emotion of every moment that it's feeling. Every stressful moment you feel stressed. Every sad moment you feel sad. Every like scared moment you're scared.
Exactly, yeah.
And you're just like, whoa.
It just is such a part of the movie, right? It's not separate. It's not lost in this movie. It is intertwined, such a part. Henry Jackman just does such a good job with the score, with the themes for each character, with it's just every part of it.
Yeah, if we wanted to, we would have a hard time finding mistakes in this movie. But yeah, it's just so good.
Yeah. All right. So this kind of leads me to talk about this movie as a whole. I just want to mention, like, when I watch movies, like, this is one of the ones that I just like compare them to. And I'm not saying like every movie has to do the same thing, has to tell the same story. So I'm saying every movie, like this one, tells the story so well. The soundtrack pushes the movie so well. The characters are so easy. Everything's easy to follow. Nothing's boring. The fight scenes are so smooth. Like when I watch another Marvel movie, especially, like it's someone you can put it up against and be like, does it tell the story as well, right?
Yeah.
And I think especially with the newer Marvel media, you can see some giant differences between this movie and the movies or shows or whatnot. And one thing that really highlights that is in this movie, like we said, nothing was done by accident. Nothing didn't have a reason for why it was done.
Mm-hmm.
And like that goes, like one thing that I like mentioned when we watched it this time is there's this scene on the boat when Scarlett Johansson, Black Widow, is in the data room, right, getting the information, and they don't know where she is, right?
Yeah.
They set that up. They tell her that they don't know where she is. So Captain America is looking for her. Now he eventually they know that eventually he has to get into that room. So, but he's out here having this fight scene. They could finish the fight and then have him get into that room, and you'd be like, did he just go in there because he was looking, and then have to explain that away. But what they do is they have this fight take place in which at the end of the fight, he tackles him through a door and she just happens to be there.
Yeah.
Now they don't have to explain that away, right? Because it just happened and it was part of the flow of the movie. It all felt natural. The camera work, it just worked with it. Everything flowed really well. Let's compare that to a scene in Miss Marvel. When Miss Marvel is at her grandmother's house and happens to walk into her art room, right?
Yeah.
I mentioned this when this episode came out. Just such a horribly done scene. Because she goes in there and then they have to have her randomly say this line that it doesn't feel natural. Just was a terrible line of is this where I'm staying? Or whatever. To explain away because they're we need her to get in here. And so now we're going to explain it away once she gets in there. Instead of setting it up, having her looking around, exploring the house.
Yeah.
We don't get any of that. And she just happens in this room and then she's in awe. Whoa, this is such a cool room. Right? We have no idea what she's doing, and then she happens to be in this room and then has to explain it away. Those are two very different ways of the exact same thing happening, one of which builds who your characters are, shows of really well done scenes, builds the anxiety of where the heck's Black Widow, right?
Yeah.
Could have feel this is this is really cool house. She's exploring this house. She's learning so much. This is a character that I like watching do these things.
Yeah.
But no, she just walks into this room and then has to explain it away. There's two ways of doing something, and one actually tells a story. One forces something down your throat, right?
Yeah, exactly. Are you done?
I could compare it to some other movies, but I think that gets my point across, and we'll probably talk about that more as we talk about other Marvel movies. But
Yeah. Speaking of Miss Marvel, comparing it to Miss Marvel, I did want to say that this movie, as you said, is so natural.
Yep.
Doesn't force anything. And not only that, the acting feels so natural.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything about the movie feels natural. Everything about Miss Marvel, though.
Right. We don't need to, this isn't rag on Miss Marvel.
Yeah, no. I'm sorry, but I just had to say that. But yeah, why don't we go ahead and give this our final rating? I'll let you take it from here.
Oh, I'm going first. All right. I've had this movie ranked this for a very long time, and it's probably not going to change anytime soon. But I have it as a 98 out of 100.
98 out of 100. I will ask you why once I give my rating here. That's funny because I was thinking about my rating while we were talking about this. I was actually wanting to give it a 99 out of 100.
Okay. Yeah.
So, yeah. And why would you give yours a 98? I'm actually really curious.
All right. So I originally gave it a 98 because I was when I was first ranking movies in general, I wanted to leave room. It was my favorite movie at the time, and I just wanted to leave room for other movies in case we're somewhere better. And it's always just kind of stayed there. It's never. And one reason I've thought about moving it up to 99 quite a bit. Why I never have done that is because there's a very specific movie at 99 that I don't think it's better than.
Ouch.
and we will probably do a review of this movie because it's also a Marvel movie. And so we'll also do a review of that movie at some time, and we will explain why then. But yeah, that's why. Like I do think personally I like the movie just as much.
Yeah.
But putting them together, like the other movie just does some things that this movie doesn't do, and that's why I like the other movie. Or
Yeah.
I think the other movie's better.
That's understandable. Yeah.
And then I couldn't rank that movie 100 because it's not perfect like some of the movies.
That is very true, but it's still very good.
Amazing.
Yeah. You can probably guess why I ranked mine at 99. I would want to rank it at 100.
You know, this is the second movie you've ranked 99 out of 100.
Wait, really?
Ford v Ferrari.
Ford v Ferrari, I ranked 100 out of 100.
No, 99.
No, I ranked it 100 out of 100. Well, we'll take a look at that.
Okay.
I was about to say that. I was about to say the reason I put it at 99 is because Ford v Ferrari is at 100.
Oh, maybe I know I said it as 99. I thought you did as well.
No, I made it. I told you Ford v Ferrari is my new number one favorite movie.
All right. Well, sounds good. We will see y'all with our next episode or with our next movie review next month, which will be.
I'm forgetting. Is it? Oh wait, it's going to be Batman Under the Red Hood, isn't it?
Yep.
That's right. I knew that. Yeah. I didn't look at anything. Actually, I didn't.
So
yeah.
Yep.
So we'll catch you all next week, next month, and other times.